Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to chair this fantastic session on right to repair policy developments and innovations. It's wonderful to be with two right to repair heroes of mine, Gordon-Byrne and Nathan Proctor. It's wonderful to see you both. For introductions, there's really no need to introduce either Gay or Nathan, but we know that Gay is the Executive Director of the Repair.org since 2013, and we all probably know Gay best from her fantastic TED Talk, You Deserve the Right to Repair Your Stuff. If you want any further information, it's on the Summit landing page. And welcome to Nathan Proctor. Again, no need for introductions, but leader of the US PIRG's Right to Repair campaign. Both, as I said, very big heroes of mine. The plan is to have both Gay and Nathan speak for a little while about policy initiatives. There's so much happening in the US. It's so much to learn. And then we'll open up and hopefully have some good time for questions. So without any further delay, over to you, Gay. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. It's so great. This is a really amazing group. So I really thank you for allowing me to be a participant. I was thinking as talking about cell phones and needing cell service, that I would use that as a segue to talk about right to repair, because one of the things that happens, and I'll step back for a second. For those of you that don't know what right to repair is, it's a legislative agenda where we're trying to get laws and standards and resources available so that people can fix their stuff. And that's a unique problem to digital equipment, because if a manufacturer won't sell you the parts, tools, and particularly the software, you really probably can't fix it. Even, there's no chainsaw sharpening tool that lets this happen. So the thing that most people have been most frustrated by when it comes to repair, personally, other than there for their car, is their cell phone. Because if their cell phone doesn't work, they're out of communication with the wider world, which has clearly been a problem in North Carolina. So what was happening when we went in to meet with legislators, they would say, well, what's right to repair? And I basically would hold up a phone and say, yeah, you should be able to fix this. And they would hold up their phone and say, really? And there was always a big crack and the battery was always bad. And I'd say most every legislator we worked with had a cell phone that was bad and it was too expensive to repair. And their staffers were telling them to sign on to the bill. So it's actually, even though we started out trying to make sure you could repair everything that you had, the cell phone was kind of the entree to the world that got us all the support and attention that we got. The bill itself is actually very simple. It says, hey, Mr. Manufacturer, in exchange for a license to do business in my state, because these laws exist, you must provide all the service materials that you already have, that you're already using on a fair and reasonable basis to your customers and to an independent repair shop. That's really it. That's the guts of the bill, and it applies to anything with a chip. And it's become a little more challenging as things go on because people keep bringing up more questions, but we've made a lot of progress. Nathan, do you have that slide with the states?
Yeah, I can start the slides. Yeah, and really quickly before we do that, I just wanted to make one quick thing about why right to repair is so important. A little bit from our work. So PIRG is a public interest research group. We have chapters all over the country where we advocate for the public interest. We've been doing that since since the 70s, or going into 50 years now. And two main reasons we care about right to repair. One is because electronic waste is the fastest growing part of the global waste stream. It's very, very toxic. And, we were just churning through electronics at a crazy speed. We should be fixing this stuff and not buying new stuff. And that's actually also really expensive. We found that average American family could save $382 a year, which is some $40 billion across the country, if we repaired instead of replaced our stuff. And that's why we've been working with Repair.org, which is a coalition of repair businesses as well as nonprofits to fight for this at the states. And we've been winning. So let's start with some of these updates.
Yeah, the winning is the fun part. I have kind of big thing in front of me, but basically the pale pink is all the states that have started bills. The black is where they've actually finished bills. And there's only one laggard left because I think New Mexico has filed a bill or they've pre-filed a bill. So the only laggard out there is really Wisconsin. We don't know what's going on in Wisconsin. But basically 49 out of 50 states have begun the process of getting legislation done. And that has given us enormous momentum. Roughly 22% of the population of the US is already covered by a right to repair law. And as these laws expand and we add to them, because they need to be added, we need to be able to fix everything, not just a cell phone or a tractor. It's become quite universal. And I know Leanne has a lot of experience with other countries that are doing the same kind of thing. I won't speak to the international side because Leanne can, but basically you can see in this little chart which states have covered which kinds of equipment, and they all have chips in them. That's really the only thing that makes them, they're all the same under the covers. Nathan, you want to jump in on that and explain?
Yeah, I thought maybe it would make sense to briefly explain parts pairing, because as a column. So personal electronics is like basically cell phones, laptops, other kinds of small electronics. We all know what appliances, business enterprise, that means things sold to businesses or large networking equipment, farm equipment, and wheelchairs. You can see that. But parts pairing refers to a technology that companies have started to do where they cryptographically tie parts within a device back to the main computer in the device, like in the motherboard. They associate it with like a serial number, other unique identifier, and then when the parts change, the computer within that device knows and can restrict the functioning of that product, unless that number is updated on the software end. And that basically gives them total control over the repair process remotely. They can just decide that you're not allowed to fix something with that ability to control it through the internet, through software. And so we've now had 2 different states that have passed bills that specifically prohibit that conduct from interfering with repair. And so that's been like one of the biggest fights in the last year, even as we've kind of continued to cover more industries, is we're really digging deep, and manufacturers have come up with some alternative schemes to kind of get around us. But we've shown some resilience in being able to basically update our template legislation and get around those barriers. I was going to talk a little bit about compliance, Gay, if that's.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
we're winning, but we will have won nothing if we don't have compliance.
Yes. Well, here, I'm wearing this shirt. I didn't even think of that, but I have my Repair Independence Day shirt on.
Yay!
July 1st, we celebrated Repair Independence Day, when California and Minnesota, some of our big legislative victories took effect. And we started going around to the companies that are covered by these laws and asking them if, like proposing as secret shoppers, trying to get parts and tools. And you can see that, these are kind of, screenshots from the customer service. We recommend, we refer you to the customer service center. Like, it wasn't all good. This is from our report card that we did in July called Leaders and Laggers, about who can fix what you can fix and what you can't. Canon, Nikon, and Sony cameras, all, you couldn't fix them. There were no documentation. There were no parts. And since then, we've been able to. We've now noticed that these manuals have come online. So for the first time in history, now that you can get some of these manuals, and I think that it kind of highlights both we're winning these laws, but we're also putting effort into mobilizing people and doing an analysis, holding these companies accountable, and then filing complaints when it's called for. I did want to highlight some things. Like, one, when you check what Bosch does, they will tell you could read this here, California and Minnesota customers and service providers. So they're only going to follow these laws where they have to. So if you're not in California or Minnesota, Bosch will just not send you the parts that you need to fix your dishwasher. They're just begging us to pass some more states. Clearly they like this process. And I just want to quickly also talk about some things that are happening at the U.S. federal level. And so the first thing to know is that the Federal Trade Commission has this Nixing the Fix report and investigation. Then they voted unanimously across the bipartisan commission to prioritize enforcing right to repair. They've done a number of things. I'll talk about that in a second. We have been applying for, as a coalition, mostly led by Public Knowledge and iFixit, exemptions under copyright law to fix things. Apparently, into the kooky IP law situation we have in the world, and Leanne knows a ton about this as an IP lawyer. We make it illegal to break technological locks in products that you own, even if it's only to repair that product. And we've been able to fight for exemptions for a whole set of equipment. There's a bunch of bills in Congress, things around medical devices, farm equipment, the broader right model legislation, as well as the freedom to repair copyright reform, which would basically remove these copyright restrictions for repair, and even the right to repair for the military in our national defense authorization is a hot topic right now. So really quickly on what the FTC has been doing, they've been warning companies not to restrict access to repair as a condition of their warranties, which is illegal. After we've been kind of bothering them on that, they've taken action against 3 companies for doing this. They're also investigating John Deere for criminally violating antitrust law for the way that they've restricted repair of tractors. Both Gay and I were co-signers of a complaint to the FTC outlining Deere's conduct and why we think it's eligible for those actions. And then I have the iFixit McDonald's ice cream machine, because this is a good example of exactly what these digital millennium copyright exemptions around repair refer to. The McDonald's ice cream machine has technological locks that prevent you from fixing it, and bypassing those locks makes you a criminal. So iFixit got one of these machines, figured out how to fix it, and then applied to the Federal Copyright Office for an exemption to make that a non-criminal activity. And it was granted, but you still can't sell tools. They still can't sell and distribute the method for fixing that ice cream machine to a third party. So that's anyway. So that's a little bit of what we've been up to recently, and our priorities remain passing more bills in the states so that Bosch can't continue to withhold parts from people, and making sure that we remove those copyright restrictions so people can fix their stuff without threat of copyright. Gay, anything you want to add to that federal update?
No, I just want to point out, well, actually, I will point something out. We're often asked, how come you don't want to do this federally? And the answer is actually that states have better laws for this purpose. States have general business law that isn't federal, and they can control who they choose to allow to do business in their state. And they can also enforce statutes covering unfair and deceptive acts and practices. UDAP law. And under UDAP law, this is what's really the software hook is. It is deceptive when you sign an end user license agreement, when you click to accept. That's actually extremely deceptive, because what that end user agreement is taking away the right that you had when you bought the machine in the first place. So there's a really good legal hook into state law that's not quite the same as what copyright is. So we're working both fronts. And it's fun to win. We need everybody's help to win more, especially in Washington. So please join us and send some letters to your state legislators, no matter where it is that you live, and just tell them you want right to repair in your state. And that's very powerful messaging. It really does work.
All right, that's our overview, Leanne. You got questions for us?
Well, actually, Nathan, I was just wondering, have you got any updates on the repairability index? Because I think that's really interesting too.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for folks that don't know, starting, I think, 3 years ago in France, when you buy a set of products, which include tablets and laptops and cell phones, and I think lawnmowers for some reason. There's a score, 0 to 10 score for how fixable that product is, which is calculated by, a set of inputs. The EU has then EU also took up that score, and the French score is going to be phased out in favor of an EU-wide label. And we like this reform a lot in theory, because consumers, when you go to Best Buy and you're wandering around, you're not thinking, oh, let me pick up this unfixable thing. Usually you don't have the kind of information that'll tell you this thing is just not built to last any length of time. I like many of you, by the way, shout out Emily Barker. Fantastic. The Minnesota coalition was amazing. And it was a huge win when we got Minnesota done. So yeah, to be able to tell, like, okay, this is a good product. I'm thinking about it right now because I'm like shopping for gifts, and it's for Christmas, and you're just like, you go on Amazon, you're like, just don't know what the completely shoddy, like, this thing looks like a legit piece of electronics, but it really could just be garbage. And consumers need some more help to buy better, to use their vote with their dollars. And right now we're in the process of developing kind of what we think of as like a little bit more of an accurate score. And then we'll need to get it established as a standard before we can enact it. But that is a huge project of our coalition, and something that iFixit has been developing these repair scores for years. So anybody who's interested in that should definitely check out the iFixit, some of the iFixit resources, and then join the repair.org newsletter to kind of keep up to date on it. But I think that there's some more technical work to do to kind of get the standard to a point where we could require it. But that is very much a thing that we're interested in.
Thanks, Nathan. Actually, that's something in Australia that we've been really following closely, because it's one of the recommendations that we've been pushing with our federal government too, because we get so many cheap and badly made appliances into Australia. It is one of the major problems, and we know that recycling will never catch up with the production and consumption of our e-waste, and so we really need to repair and reuse. So we've got a great question from Amanda. What role, given that we've got so many community repair and tool library people here, what role can the community repairers and tool libraries and non-profits play in our right to repair movement more generally? I know in Australia we encourage every repair cafe and every tool library to invite their local members to come along to engage everyone in the discussion around it. But you might, Gay and Nathan, have some more concrete suggestions.
Yeah, I was seeing the chat go, and I'm like, oh God, I hope she asked that question. Yeah, we are a coalition. We are a 501c6 trade association, and that gives us the opportunity to lobby on behalf of our members. And we have always asked nonprofits, if they're a C3, we don't want any money from you. We just want your support. So a letter from any of you that are nonprofits saying we support right to repair, or more specifically, if there's a bill going on in your state, you can actually be more specific. And then we will carry that forward. It's also extremely valuable when there's an opportunity for testimony in a state, where you can really come forward and say, hey, I do this work for people in my community. We've had a number of nonprofits testify, and I don't think it has violated any lobbying laws at all. So yeah, we can be the front person. We can guide you as to how to write an effective letter, how to make effective testimony. And we really welcome your help, because your network, all those people that you help that are involved with you, they're also consumers that want right to repair. And as consumers, they have a big voice personally, and they can tell their legislators as well, I want my right to repair. So I think it's pretty easy. Hopefully that's made sense.
Yeah, I wanted to give one example so Wayne Seltzer from Boulder YouFixit Clinic. I want to get that right because it's a different name. When we had testimony, he was able to recruit people that had attended their workshops including a NURI, like a 7th grader who was fixing the school amplifiers and found, there was just a lot of details and stories. And those stories are really what sticks with lawmakers. When somebody from their district has a personal story, and it's like, or are you going to be on Team NURI, or are you going to be for the corporate, trade association lobbyist who comes to you from 500 different, rapacious companies a week, with another ask? You're going to go with Team NURI. It's a very effective strategy, and having those networks is critical. Just to also answer that question, it is not like if you are a 501c3, you can't lobby directly, or you might choose not to do that. Most 501c3s choose not to do the H election. I know I'm getting deep into American tax law right now. But you can always do education and community engagement and coalition work, and just to interface with groups like us who have 501c4s and are approved to lobby. Yes, some do the H election and can lobby. There's Wayne. All right, sorry.
I saw one message come through, by the way. We try extremely hard to be completely non-political, and we have decided as a board we will not endorse any candidates, no matter how marvelous they are. So we try to stay out of politics entirely, and that actually really reflects the networks that we work with. I don't know what the politics is of our members, but I know that we work with about half Republicans and half Democrats in legislatures, and we haven't pissed any of them off. So I think we're doing the right thing. Legislators tell us that it's one of the few areas where they really do work across the aisle, and it seems to be a point of pride. It's certainly a point of pride for us, but it's also, we just had this a conference last week with some legislators, and they were saying, yeah, this is really awesome to be able to do this. And these were legislators from both sides of the aisle. So we do not get involved politically. We don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I think it diminishes our effectiveness. So please join.
Yeah. Thanks, Gay and Nathan. And I think that's true. It really involves everyone. And as you say, bringing people in to the repair cafes, or speaking about them in your schools, or presenting, or inviting local politicians to any events, environmental events where you can talk about repair, all really helps elevate the understanding and the passion for it, because there's not one person that you speak to who doesn't have something broken at home. So every politician goes, oh my God, yeah, I've got one. Well, I've got this broken thing at home.
Nathan and I were just talking about that. It starts with cell phones, and then you start talking about dishwashers.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you start talking about hot tubs and garage door openers and all the other stuff. So yeah, we all feel it. We all feel it. We all need to be able to fix a lot more stuff than we can fix.
That's exactly right. We have a local member who is actually a volunteer at one of our repair cafes in my city, which is fantastic because he really gets it. So, we really promote that as well. So we've got a couple of questions about, is PIRG active in Canada to help push the right to repair there? I'm aware of the fantastic developments around copyright changes.
Yes. There are... PIRG is only in the US, but there's a Can Repair, which is a coalition started in cooperation with repair.org. And there's a bunch of groups that have been working on that. They recently got 2 different measures to royal assent, which is something I now can say with confidence, knowing what that is, but I didn't know what that was before, which means, I guess, the king? I don't know. No, they passed and enacted 2 pieces of copyright reform to allow for the repair of products without violating copyright law, and to allow protections for interoperability. Which is another kind of related issue, where it's like, if I have a tool that needs to plug into some other piece of equipment in order to configure it in some way, that kind of interoperability is now protected under copyright law. So yes, the Canadian group is not only present and active, but they've recently got a couple big wins. And so it's time for them to, I assume they're going to pretty soon circle up and decide what's next for Canadian rights repair efforts. But if you're interested in getting connected, I'm not totally sure where to go, but Gay, I'm going to go look it up right now. And so I can.
Anthony Rosborough at
Yeah, contact
Canberra
Anthony.
probably best
Yeah,
bet.
yes, Anthony Rosborough for sure.
Yeah.
Another IP lawyer.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's interesting in Australia because we're lobbying very hard, but we go down the environmental route, and then we go the competition law route. And we've recently had a bit of a win with the competition law saying, you know, our aftermarkets are being affected. And what was really interesting, we've just seen some figures produced by our own productivity commission of, you know, basically $400 million of savings if our repair businesses and community can repair the stuff that we own. So it's a really strong argument. And then we have the social inclusion and benefits as well. So we tend to lobby across everything as well as the consumer rights, because, you know, you need to get lift somewhere, and bringing everyone together on the journey is so important. So in terms of, are there any final comments that you like? I think we've got a couple of minutes left. Gay, Nathan?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nathan, please.
Yeah, I think these issues are going to continue to come up really strongly. I think they're really popular across the breadth of American life, you know, and around the world. Like the Canadian Right Repair Coalition just sprung up from people watching and being excited about it. And I think it's important to realize that right to repair is more than just like these laws. It really is the ecosystem of successful community operations and businesses. And if we really want to make it possible for everything to get fixed, not only do we need better laws, but we need that communication between the people actually fixing stuff, and so that we can advocate for effective reforms when manufacturers or other restrictions are getting in the way of people doing that. And so that's critical. So we really, really welcome just more and more engagement, training and equipping, and more repair happening all over the place is really the key.
One last word.
Okay.
Complain.
Yes.
Complain. We really
Great.
need to know what we haven't done. We need to know where the holes are. We need to know who the bad guys are. There's not a lot of good guys, so we need to know who the bad guys are so we can turn them into good guys. So please use.
Oh yeah, we were gonna promote this tool, the repair.org complaint tool.
Yeah. If you go to the repair.org website, the very top says complain. So you don't have to remember very much, but we really are watching those like a hawk. We're expecting to be able to bring some data to states attorneys general, because they are the enforcement arm for these bills. And then we also, especially through US PIRG and their media connections, we have a pretty big bullhorn. And when PIRG says something, you know, they do the research, they have great credibility, and they're able to amplify some of the bad guy messaging that we want to see. And I know there was a question about Consumer Reports, and yes, they are part of our coalition. So if you're not with us, please join us. No charge for C3. We just need your voice. So complain, please. Your opportunity to bitch.
That's a great way to end this session. Thank you so much, Gay. Thank you very much, Nathan. So everybody get on and complain. That's so important.
Please.
We love it. And thank you very much. This has been fascinating for me. I always love to hear you both speak and get some updates, but I'm sure everybody else enjoyed it. So thank you very much again, and we'll hand back over. Thank you.